Welcome to another episode of Roll or Die. We are all about bringing the Jiu Jitsu couples to you. Anton loves to chat with them,
Yes, I
and
do.
this is well, by Sydney standards, certainly very famous, and perhaps throughout the whole of Australia, people know these guys. They are Owen and Sarah Gee Kee. Owen is the head instructor at Gracie Miranda, third degree black belt, and Sarah is his lovely wife and who is a brown belt. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much
having
for having
us.
us. This is awesome.
Welcome, guys. So I want to jump. I would love to open this up with something that I've been dealing with this week, right? So I've gotten, you guys are all high level, okay? And this is a conversation which, like, I literally blew up my social media last week, okay? The reason is I've never, ever, ever, ever washed my belt until this week because I was told by my first coach, you don't wash your belt. It's got the juju in it and you got to keep that and you tie the knot in it at the end of the class and then you take it home and you throw stuff in there. Anyway, my belt just floats around in my room on my desk. I look at it. I'm like, I love you, belt, but it never gets washed, right? Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm like I was doing a live stream and then this like 6th degree black belt, I think he's third or fourth or something. Gerald Batty, he's awesome. He's like, people didn't used to wash their belts, but that was because of tradition and this and that. And now people wash their belts. I'm like, oh. So anyway, it took me another couple of months after and I decided, okay, I'm going to be a belt washer. So I washed my belt and I posted it on my social media, like, hey guys, and I got trolled hard. Okay. Like I'm used to being trolled, but this was even harder. And it kind of got very controversial. So then I'm like, well, if you guys are going to troll me, I'm going to do a survey and find out what's going on out there, right? So I did this survey. I'm just going to quickly share my screen. The reason why I'm going on with this precursor to this is because I really value everybody's opinion. Like, I don't think there's a right answer to this. Like, obviously, science has an answer. But if I share my screen right now, and I'll just refresh this because this is a live survey, we've got 121 responses. 33% of people wash their belt after every single session. 14.9% wash their belts weekly. 3.3% wash their belts fortnightly, 13.2% wash their belts monthly, 8.3% wash their belts quarterly, and 27.3% never, ever, ever wash their belt, right? So I was like, screw you guys for trolling me because obviously, out of 100 people on the mats, around 30% of the people don't wash their belts. Now, what I'm definitely committed to is like, yes, it might be right, it might be wrong, I don't know, but the way that people kind of attacked me is not going to cause a change, right? So I think that, like, what I'm interested in is in your club, do you talk about belt washing? Have you ever talked about belt washing? Is this something that's on the agenda?
We do talk about it.
Yeah.
I think back in the day, it used to be kind of frowned upon. Everyone would say, don't wash the magic. Well, staff's a real thing. So
Yeah.
I encourage people to wash their belt at least probably, maybe after every session is probably a bit much because when you think about it, it sits on the outside. So it's not really having too much contact and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you certainly should wash it. If it's starting to get manky, you certainly should wash it. You should definitely hang it out in the sun to let the UV get on it and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
In saying that, I don't really wash my belt though.
Cool.
I just have this the jiu-jitsu thing, but I definitely think as a practitioner, I'm like, oh, I don't want to wash my belt, but as a coach and a gym owner, I'm like, hygiene. So it's really
Thanks for being open about that.
How much no-gi do you guys do at your Gracie club? Is it sort of evenly split 50-50 gi no-gi, or are you doing a lot of...
We're probably more of a gi academy. We probably have 90-something% of our classes are gi.
Yeah.
We don't have that many no-gi classes. It is something we are addressing because there is seeming to be an upswell in people wanting to do a bit more no-gi.
We love no-gi as well. We train a lot of no-gi.
But I also find that because we have the population that we have here is also maybe a little bit older, some of the guys, it also puts them off. They're like, I need to work tomorrow. I can't get heel hooked and not walk for a couple of months.
Yeah.
Yeah, heel hooks and that do scare some people off, but
leg attacks, everything.
Yeah, the leg attacks and the Z-locks and all that sort of stuff are pretty full on if you're not real sure what you're doing. So we have how many? Yeah, it's pretty much 90% gi.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
But looking at trying to change that, but we will probably always be a dominant, gi club.
Yeah, there's other guys in our association. They're 50-50.
Yeah,
they do 50% gi, 50% no. And there's others that are probably the majority of our association is more like us, more gi than no gi, and then there's others that kind of are starting to heading towards that 50-50 mark.
I think this comes down to education as well, right? Like we started off talking about education with staff and those sorts of things, right? I think education about heel hooks and no gi. Like I had a guy in my class the other day in the gi, but he's been watching so much YouTube. He's brand new, and he thinks you can heel hook, as a white belt in the gi, as a beginner, like anyone you want. Like people are coming in, and if they're not expressly told these things, if they're not inducted in a way where they understand the things that can hurt people, but yeah, it really is a scary place to be around when you've got white belts yanking on your knee through your foot,
especially in the gi with all that friction.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So you mentioned, Owen, that your club's a little bit older demographic. So what would you sort of say? What's your average kind of age range of your
we've
students?
I think our age range is very broad. We've got guys like starting at 50 plus, and then we've got, guys still in high school, still training with us, so it's like, it's a pretty big age range, people at all sorts of, stages of their life and all that sort of stuff. But I think that's a concern that I hear for the guys that are a bit older, is that the heel hooks are kind of like, it's a lot of wrestling, a lot of, snap downs and all that sort of stuff. And, collar ties, heavy collar ties and all that sort of stuff. So they're like, I don't know if no gi's for me, I'll stick to the gi. They come in and they watch the no gi for sure. And they're like, I'd love to do that one day. Maybe not right now though,
Yeah. It's definitely a lot faster. I think as you get a bit older, it's harder to have that explosiveness and that speed that is, I guess, kind of required for no gi. You haven't got the grips to hold on to and all of that. So would you say that as a coach, you coach a beginner that is 50 plus differently to how you would coach someone who's just come out of high school?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the first thing that you tell them to do is listen to their body, try and train as much as you can. But if your body's telling you to take a day off, take a day off. You're not in a race. It's not it's a marathon, not a sprint, so just take your time, just spend your time on the mat, trying to absorb as much as you can. But the young guys, we were talking just before, that the young guys, they learn so fast too.
Yeah.
It's like they think, I don't know, like they seem to pick up things much faster than I did at that stage. Yeah. I remember I used to have to practice and couldn't make anything work. And these guys nowadays, they just kind of like get it. They just get it.
Yeah. I have concerns about the young people as well, though. I got to say, like, there are good people I've watched come up through the ranks, like Cooper Burnham. He's an absolute god at jiu-jitsu, right? But he has blown out big chunks of his body. He's only in his early 20s. He's had knee recos and things already. And like, I love that guy a lot. And I don't like to see people in pain. I think that teaching, like letting kids go balls to the wall is like, it's okay. Like, it's going to happen. They're going to go for it. But I just don't know if there's another way where they can actually present. And kids lifting weight, like my son's lifting weights, like there's no tomorrow right now. Even though he doesn't want to compete, he's got his eyes set on lifting records for kids his age and stuff like that. I don't know. Do we try and restrain these people as well a bit, or do we just?
I reckon it's more about like educating. Like, I think if your coach is, really up to date, like Owen, he watches so much, especially in the no-gi stuff now. Like he watches so much no-gi stuff. Like, I definitely think it is to do with educating, like as a coach, to be able to educate your student, to be able to know their body and not, you can't move this way. If you move this way, you're going to blow your knee out. You know what I mean? I definitely think that has a big part to play, but I don't know. It's a hard one.
Yeah, I think that's the hard thing. It's like we practice a sport where you're constantly told, embrace the grind and grind through harder every day, all that sort of stuff, and if there comes a point where you're just not listening to your body, and if you go over that edge, it's like you take your body into a place where it's really hard to come back from.
Yeah.
So I think there's got to be some balance there,
Yeah, awesome.
Speaking about kids, you guys have got one and another one on the way. What's your sort of take on your kids doing jiu-jitsu? Is it mandatory? They have to do it, or just going to let them decide for themselves, or what's the game?
I definitely think we would love, well, Jude, our son, we would love to him to do it. But I think if we had a girl, like we have a boy and we have another boy on the way, so I think it's kind of a little bit different. We want them to do it, and we would love to, but I don't think we're going to push them to do it. You know, I mean, he's been on the mat since he was, you know, born.
He learned to walk on the
yeah, he literally learned to walk in COVID. Like, he learned to walk here, and so when he comes on, it's like, you know, he sees all these people and he's like, no, this is my space. So he definitely knows the mat as, you know, his home sort of thing. So I definitely think he will want to do it, but you know, we're not going to push them into it.
No, I think the big problem is, like most kids, he doesn't like listening to his parents. So we haven't got much luck teaching him. We might have to take him somewhere else.
Yeah, I can tell you from experience, it doesn't get any easier. Not for me so far anyway. And actually, I'm 50. I'm still not listening to my parents. So, you know, it never stops.
True. I definitely, he's kind of at an age now where we start the tots at like 3.5, maybe a little earlier. But, you know, when I was pregnant, like a few of our students and like good friends, we were all pregnant. There was like five of us around the same time. I think we were the last or the second last, but their kids are kind of getting to that stage now where, like, you know, a few of them have done my TOTS class, and I'm like, oh, I really want you to do it, but there is no way he would sit there for me. You know, he'd be like, oh yeah, my space, I'll do what I want. And you're like, no.
And the whole class would then descend into chaos.
Yeah. So we'll probably, you know, we definitely think it's super important. Like, that's what we teach, right? That's our business. But we will probably push him a little when he's older. Right now, I don't think, you know, until he can really listen to us and understand what we're doing, I don't think we'll be able to push him, you know.
I often think about that. Like, if you look at Michael Jordan, for example, like his dad was his best friend and kind of coach, or, you know, like strategic manager. And I'm like, was there ever a time where Michael Jordan, where you just, you know, went in the opposite direction of your dad, you wouldn't let your dad anywhere near you, or was it always like that? Like, I'm wondering, is it too late for me and my son for me to be his best mate who supports him through everything? Like, is that ship sailed, or like did I push my kid too hard younger? Like, that's a question for me. I look at certain kind of dad-son dynamics and mum-son dynamics, and I'm like, and daughter, and I'm like, yeah, is there a magic formula to keeping your kid by your side forever? I haven't cracked the code.
It's so hard. I mean, you know, we probably should be asking you guys this. We're so new at it. Every day we're like, oh my gosh, are we doing the right thing? You know, it's so hard to know what to do, what not to do, you know, with your kids.
And Sarah, what about training during pregnancy? How did you go with that? Like, first time around and then this time, did you train?
Yeah, I actually trained the whole way through my first pregnancy. I had an amazing pregnancy with Jude, like no like morning sickness, no issues, but we were in COVID like halfway through. But we still trained. Yeah, I really didn't have an issue. It was pretty awesome. I did regret not pulling back on my jiu-jitsu and continuing with my weights. I think now that I'm pregnant again, obviously my main priority is my jiu-jitsu, but I will be doing more weights this time because I feel like I lost a lot of my muscle just, you know, being pregnant, and then really struggling to get it back up there. But this pregnancy is been different. I have really struggled at the start. I was really sick, but I'm feeling a lot better now. In saying that, I feel like my body now is way better to have another baby, whereas before I felt like I was so tight and I could train heaps because my body was like really stable. But whereas now, like, you know, we were training some no-gi the other day, and like I just like getting myself in, like, you know, escaping the legs and all those sorts of positions. It's like putting a bit of pressure on my tummy. So and my hips and, you know, all my joints and stuff. So I definitely think it's probably been a bit harder this time round. But I will go back to, I probably do a bit more gi work, which I've been doing, which is hard because last time round, like obviously no gi's been, you know, it is really popular, but I feel like in the last, you know, since Jude's been born, it's really like grown. So I feel like everyone, you know, wants to do no gi train, which is great. I love it. But for me now, it's probably not as good. So I'll probably just stick to more gi and way more passing, which helped me so much last time. It helped my passing so much when I was pregnant the first time. So yeah.
Interesting.
Awesome.
I'm just going back a step. Kim actually has managed to get her boys, her 3 boys, in a room, put the same dress on, get them holding the dog for years, right? So Kim,
I love that photo.
Yeah, so Kim, you got to share your secret. Like, what is it like 10 minutes before that photo? Are you screaming at everywhere? Like, get the hell in this room.
Oh, no. I don't even wait 10 minutes. I give them plenty of notice in advance. So like, you know, if the first of the month is coming up and I know it's, say, on a Saturday, I know that they're not all going to be home. So I have to sometimes schedule it for a day. Like I'll take that photo on a Wednesday and then I'll just upload it to Facebook on the Saturday when it actually happens. But no, they're pretty cooperative now. Now that we've got the dogs involved as well, it's much easier. They just fight over who's holding which dog. That's
So was there ever a time where you're like, this is going to fall apart, Kim? And you were like, I'm just going to abandon this. It's like, it's too much stress. Or have you managed?
There was a couple way back, like back in the teenage years. Now they're all a bit older. They're all adults, more or less. Like it's not so bad. And now I'm actually probably at the other end of the scale. I'm more at the, you'll see soon, like maybe 1 or 2 of them will leave. When they leave the nest, then the family group will get smaller. So it's sort of like the passing of time.
Yeah, cool.
So
nice.
Yeah. But I definitely remember those early days of the toddler and preschooler and newborn stage. It's hats off to you, because that's the heavy lifting time of the parenthood. Sorry.
Sorry, can I ask a question, Kim? When did you start training? Like, how old did you start after they were born? Like,
I started way late. I started when I was 34. So my kids were like in school. I think my youngest Randall was still at home, and I used to bring him and just put him on the side of the mat, and he would just watch me, you know, get choked out over and over. And then actually sometimes on weekends I would bring them and I would say to them, if you're really good, you know, we can go to the supermarket and you'll get like a treat. And they would only get that treat if they were good. And that was the only way like that I could train to start with.
It's so hard.
It was so, it's just to have them sit there for a half hour or an hour was impossible. Like they would go crazy.
Do you feel like now, you know, obviously seeing, I mean, more people are training when they're pregnant and stuff. Do you feel like if you were in that, would you, you know, you'd still train? Like what would you think that you would do?
I don't know. I feel like it's easier to train pregnant when you're a more advanced belt, like purple, brown, black. I don't know if I'd be as keen to train if I was just a white belt, blue belt, because you don't really have that body awareness. And it's funny, especially as a female, I don't know if it's just me, but when I was a lower belt, I felt wrong to kind of knock back people. I don't know if it's specific to me, but as a white belt or a blue belt, if a big guy asked me to roll, I would just say, yes, that's fine. I wouldn't feel comfortable to say, no, I don't want to roll with you. And I feel like as a pregnant person, you really need to have that boundary, because that seems to be the biggest challenge, to pick your partners and stay safe.
That's a good point.
You say that because, sorry,
no,
it's interesting you say that.
I love it.
So a lot of people ask me like, can't believe you still train, rah. And I always say to them, I feel like even, you know, looking back at blue belt, I wouldn't train, because I just don't have the skills and the awareness to protect myself. Whereas now, like I just I pick all my roles, like, you know, and then I won't put myself in that position.
That's it. And it is a very short amount of time, really, in the scheme of your life. It's like 9 months out of your whole life, and you can go back to jiu-jitsu afterwards. Like it will still be there. Obviously, you'll have a bit of a gap, but you know, it's not worth risking. That's my.
I'd love to have that conversation, guys, because Kim talking about knocking back rolls. Like I was taught, in addition to never washing my belt, I was taught you never knock back a roll request from a higher belt. Is this it? Like if if the not washing your belt is now out of fashion, or the washing your belt is now important, are you allowed to also knock back rolls from higher belts now? Is that something that's shifted?
So I have a rule here that the girls can knock back whoever they like.
Right.
I think for them to come to an all levels class, they need to have they need to be able to feel like they're in control of the rounds, and they can get the rounds that they like and with who they're comfortable with. I think that it just leaves a door open for too many, there's a hierarchy, and there's a hierarchy for the girls, same thing as the guys, but the girls still have priority. They can say no to whoever they like. They can arrange their roles first, and then the guys can roll with whoever after that. Okay, so that's the rule we have here, so that the women can feel like they're in control of their rounds.
But definitely a hierarchy within the
just like there's a hierarchy for the guys, there's a hierarchy for the girls too. If a high belt woman asks another lady to roll, she can still say no, and then she should sit on the wall. She shouldn't say, oh no thanks, and then roll someone else after.
Yeah great.
Yeah,
amazing. What do you think about that, Sarah? What's your views?
I definitely think it's a great rule we've kind of implemented within the gym. I definitely it's hard because with our gym, like I feel because they are our students, I feel like, oh, everyone's great roles, everyone will partner and be nice. And it's not that they're not nice, but it's like, again, like Owen was saying, like, it does feel nice and secure. Even if we don't use those rules, we know that we can say no to whoever and just kind of keep going. But I usually try and, say to the girls, like, even if they're new and stuff, just, because we can choose the roles that we want. I just say, don't leave it till the last minute. Just, make sure you're on the mat. Who's in class, how they roll, and who you like to roll. So, as soon as the round's over, I know you like to have a chat and stuff, but just go over to the person or like ask them quickly to roll. So it's just there's no room for that kind of awkwardness and saying no and just stuff like that. So
great advice.
On that same sort of vein, how is it for you guys as a couple, being like a coach student and also being a husband and wife? Like, how does that go? Anton normally asks this question, but I'm jumping in and asking it. So what's the dynamics like? Do you take it home with you, or can you leave it on the mat?
Do you want the real answer or the...
That's what we're here for. We want the dirt, guys. Come on.
To be honest,
it's changed over time.
So much. Yeah. I look back now at like white, blue, purple, like even now I'm like, oh God, just some of the things like I would probably put him through. Like, I'm like, oh no, shouldn't have said that, shouldn't have done that. But I definitely think it's really hard. Like it's really hard.
Yeah.
To do. And it's, I would say the hardest thing is to not take it home.
Yeah.
Not take that hierarchy home. I'm not saying he does that, like he, if anyone knows him is like, the nicest person, but it is just hard to not have that at home, and not even that, just have that like that, I don't know, that sort of stuff going on. But I definitely think
it's definitely hard. I think you have to get, there's definitely a feeling out process, and you learn the things that obviously irritate your partner and things like that, and you're trying to train and be a good training partner, and then you're also trying to be at the same time a coach, and you're still the husband or wife, and it's definitely a balancing act, and it does take a lot of time to work that out, so you can both kind of have a middle ground to rock, like to
I definitely think we are so much better at it now. When we started the gym, I was a blue belt, and like I just I still and do a lot of the admin sort of side of the business, and he does majority like the coaching. So it would be hard for me to make decisions off the mat to do with our business, which is jiu-jitsu, and then come on the mat and him be like, like, you can't talk to me like that. But now I get it. Now I wouldn't even ask him questions that would kind of make him be like, not the right thing to do or say, So it's just time.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get it. Sounds like it's been a roller coaster. And I kind of like the fail faster approach in life. Like, I think if you put a relationship in a bit of a pressure cooker and it survives, it's going to come out better. And if it doesn't,
Yeah.
you can get on with your life and find someone else who is a match. You know what I mean? Like, you want to be with people
Yeah.
who are a match for you and what you're up to and who can kind of rise with you and grow with you. And I like fail faster because, like, why not? We're going to fail anyway at some point if we don't start to learn and grow and look after each other. So well
Yeah.
done, guys.
Yeah.
You passed the
Thank
pressure
you.
cooker test. Where did
It
you guys
wasn't all
meet?
smooth back.
Where did you guys meet? Did you meet through jiu-jitsu or how did that work?
So
Kind of.
before we opened the gym, I was teaching at the headquarters, which is in Alexandria.
Mhm.
And Sarah used to work downstairs they had a physio downstairs, and we had to man the desk at lunchtime.
We
so
shared a desk.
I'd be sitting there and we'd be just talking, and that's how we kind of met, and started hanging out. So I brought her to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, so I didn't do jiu-jitsu when we met.
Yeah.
I was actually a swimmer, so I kind of had shoulder surgery, and I had to give up swimming and stuff. So I was like, I had such a good relationship because I was always at the physio. Anyway, so they asked me if I wanted a job, so I said yes. So I didn't do jiu-jitsu. He brought me in.
And what about you, Owen? How did you get started in jiu-jitsu? So you're a third degree, so you've obviously been around for a while. Like, tell us about when you started.
I started my first jiu-jitsu class was in '97 on the Gold Coast with Vincent Perry.
Hey, me too. Vincent Perry was my first coach.
Yeah.
He's the one who told you not to wash your belt.
Yeah, Vincent Perry told me not to wash my belt. I'm pretty sure it was him.
That's
crazy.
Yeah, so I started with Vince. I did about a year, and then life got in the way, and then I moved to Sydney in '99, and then I started in March of 2001, and then my coach, who's my coach now, Bruno Pano, he turned up, arrived from Brazil, and I've been with Bruno ever since. So so that's when I started. But it was way back. Back when I started, Vince was a blue belt.
Wow.
So that was a long time ago. Yeah. And Bruno had just got his black belt and he was the first actual Brazilian black belt that I'd seen. I'd met John Will and John Donahue down from Melbourne. I'd met them before, but he was the first actual Brazilian that I met that was a black belt. And I'd watch him just smash everybody in the room, the big guys, the little guys, everyone. It was like magic. I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a cool story, man. I love it. I feel bonded to you forever now. Vincent Perry.
That's it.
Do you still keep in communication with Vince Perry, or are you?
I every now and then I've shot him a message on Facebook and that, but I haven't seen him for years.
Yeah.
A long time ago. Yeah, since I've seen him.
Wow.
But no, don't really keep in touch. But
fair enough.
Yeah.
So you would have seen a huge change then in the jiu-jitsu scene, Owen, since you started in 2001, especially around Sydney. Can you tell us a bit about like what changes you've seen?
The changes. I mean, it was before you'd be doing a fringe sport that nobody knew what it was. People would, you're doing, I'd tell people that they'd be like, "What happened to your ears?" And I'd just tell them rugby because you'd tell them Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and then they'd be like, "Isn't that dance fighting thing?" And you'd be like, "No, that's where." And then you got to start the whole thing. So I just say, "Oh, just rugby," and they're like, "Okay, cool." Yeah, that's asking a question. Wow. It was the easy way out.
Oh my god!
Yeah, but now everyone knows jiu-jitsu. Everyone knows it.
Yep.
So it's pretty amazing to think how far the sport's come. Just
so much change in technique as well.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that if you had have asked me when I was a blue belt or even a purple belt that one day I'd have my own gym, I would have thought you were crazy. I was just too busy training and thought to think that it was a proper business that you could actually go into now. Then there's, and the other thing for the guys nowadays, there's so many different ways for them to make a career out of jiu-jitsu as well. They could be commentating, they could be instructing, they could be running tournaments. There's so many different ways they could do that. So I think the opportunities that the sport is providing to people nowadays is huge, and I think it's like it's still getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. What was your inspiration for opening your own gym? I don't know if you've already answered it and I've zoned out for a second or not, but what caused you to go, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm opening a gym.
Well, I worked at the headquarters for like 6 or 7 years, so that was quite a while. And it wasn't until Sarah actually came along, and she was the one that probably put the fire in me, saying, you could do this, we could do this, we could actually, I was pretty comfortable just teaching at the.
She's like, we could open up our own swim school or our own BJJ school. Which one will it be?
Except I'm really bad swimming.
She wanted ears like yours, bro. That's what it was. She was like, how do we get ears like yours? I know, we'll open our own school.
Yeah, so honestly, it was probably, like we talked about it a lot. And at first I was kind of like, I'm pretty happy where I am, like I'm teaching in a really big academy. I love what I'm doing. It was great. And then, the more and more we talked about it and the more that we, started thinking about the future.
Our life, yeah.
Yeah. Then, we probably, she helped me realize it was probably the right decision for us. And yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
Awesome.
Yeah. I guess I'd be remiss of me not to ask this because I'm not sure how to word this, but Gracie schools sometimes seen in somewhat of a different light, if I could say. Like, how do you guys sort of structure your classes? Are they kind of mostly self-defense based? Are they like, what do you think about sometimes there is a little bit of a divide between normal jiu-jitsu and Gracie jiu-jitsu. So can you talk to us a bit about that?
Yeah, look, there is a bit of a divide, Look, I guess the one thing that you want as a jiu-jitsu instructor, if you're instructing jiu-jitsu and you're teaching your guys to, you're teaching them a sport, at the same time you're teaching them self-defense. But if you have a student that comes in one day with a black eye and they got in a fight and they got beat up, you probably need to ask yourself, am I doing enough of the self-defense or am I doing enough of, So I think that's one thing that I try to focus on is that, yes, we're doing a sport a lot of the time, but we're still teaching people to, especially the young guys in your academy, if they're going out on the weekends, they're having a good time, every now and then one of them's going to get in a fight. If they can't defend themselves effectively, then you probably need to look at your program and make some adjustments. Thankfully, I haven't had that happen yet. I'm pretty confident. It is very hard. This is the thing, right? If you think about all of the different schools out there, and now so many of the schools are going down separate tracks, like just doing no gi or just doing the gi, or and then to add the self-defense aspect on top of that, it does become very hard to cover across all the areas you need to touch. But you just got to try and do your best. And if there's some students that want to focus a little bit more no-gi, they're going to do that. And then others that want to, focus on self-defense. But I think the 95% of people, 99% of people that walk through the door, they're not trying to be world champion. They're trying to learn how to defend themselves, get some self-confidence, all that sort of stuff. So I think that your program definitely needs to focus on that so they can get what they need out of the program.
Yeah, love it. Something that came out of the Gracie kind of lineage, which I love, is this Boyd belt system. Man, I don't think it's an official thing from the club, but this guy, John Boyd, talks about how Hannah Gracie realized this actually, but the Boyd belt system is that for every 10 years older than you, for every 10 years younger than you that someone is, that's a belt. And for every 10 kilos heavier than you that someone is, that's a belt. Yeah. So like when I get tapped by white belts who are like 20 years, 30 years younger than me or much bigger than me, like it always, like there would be versions of me without just even that knowledge. Like I love how the Gracie family is always on this mission to kind of help us kind of like they're systematizing, categorizing. Like that is something the Gracie family have always done so well. They need stuff that works, but also stuff that keeps you in the game and wanting to move forwards. So yeah, I'm a big fan of just like I love the Gracie family, and we had Tiago on the show a little while back, and he moved back to Brazil, and I'm like, what's the Gracie family reputation like over there? And he's like, everybody respects the Gracies, man. Like everybody loves the Gracies, That's my thoughts.
Yeah.
We're nearly out of time, guys. So do you have any final words, both of you? Just over 1 minute to go to wrap up this episode.
No, I mean, like, it's really nice that you guys asked us on this podcast. We really
thanks for having us.
I mean, I have listened to your podcast, so it's really cool. And then, like, looking at on who you had, like, we were kind of really humbled. We were really happy that you asked. So thank you. We it's really nice for us to do something together.
Of course.
So we appreciate it.
You guys are great
you're
guests.
welcome.
And also, quick note to any of our listeners, I've had complaints that on the audio versions of actual podcasts, sometimes some of the audio is missing, like half the audio channels. So if that is you, try listening to us on YouTube or other places. I don't know what it is. We're going to investigate it. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really, really appreciate you.
We'll have this episode out in a couple of weeks. If you could share it, that'd be awesome. And keep growing our audience, and we'll see you on the mats.
You.
See you on the mats. Thanks,
See ya.
guys.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.